नमस्कार। आज नदेर टू जेनिथ क्लासेस के कोर कंसेप्ट को डीपली एक्सप्लोर करते हैं।
Today, we are diving headfirst into something that is quite literally taking over the Indian internet. We're looking at a phenomenon that sounds exactly like a joke, it looks like a meme, but for some reason, it's forcing seasoned political analysts to actually sit up and pay attention. We are going to unpack the explosive, completely bizarre birth of the internet's newest political obsession, the Cockroach Janta Party, or the CJP.
15 million. I just want to let that sink in for a second. 15 million Instagram followers. And honestly, the truly mind-blowing part about all of this, the Cockroach Janta Party amassed this massive digital army in just about 5 days. Just to put that into perspective for you, at their absolute peak, they were gaining almost 1 million followers every few hours.
Now, if you're wondering why a digital meme page actually matters in the grand scheme of things, well, think about the established political giants. The ruling BJP, which is often cited as the world's largest political party, currently sits at around 8.8 million Instagram followers. The main opposition, Congress, has about 13.3 million. And yet, this totally new, highly satirical page completely eclipsed those national heavyweights in less than a week. It's absolutely wild.
So obviously, it begs a pretty serious question, right? How in the world does a party named after a household pest, like a literal bug we usually just chase out of the kitchen with a shoe, completely hijack the Indian internet so incredibly fast? Let's break down the anatomy of this entire movement, starting from its accidental spark all the way to its very real-world friction.
All right, let's look at part 1, a viral spark, and specifically, the May 15 catalyst.
So the catalyst for all of this was actually a Supreme Court hearing on May 15th. During the proceedings, Chief Justice Surya Kant made a remark that ended up mentioning the country's youth, the unemployed, and cockroaches all in the exact same breath. Now, actually, to be completely fair here, the Chief Justice did clarify the very next day that his comments were strictly targeted at people with fake law degrees who were entering the legal profession and causing a nuisance, not the youth at large. But you know how the internet works. In the age of rapid-fire social media, a clarification just cannot catch up to the outrage. Those initial words felt deeply, deeply personal to a very frustrated generation.
And that brings us to the crucial point. How this anger was basically weaponized. Because instead of your standard, typical protests, young people converted this perceived insult into a giant, self-deprecating, satirical movement. They just fully embraced the term cockroach and launched the party with this highly relatable peak Gen Z slogan, secular, socialist, democratic, lazy. It was just this perfect, potent blend of lofty constitutional ideals and classic internet-era apathy.
Which brings us to Section 2. The satirical manifesto, where absurdity actually meets some pretty real demands.
First off, you've got to hear their hilarious, totally deadpan eligibility criteria. To even join this party, you must be 1. Unemployed. 2. Supremely lazy. 3. Online 24/7, like even if you are literally in the shower. And 4. A professional ranter who knows exactly how to vent all your frustrations online. It's essentially a giant mirror reflecting exactly how this generation feels the system views them, as useless, screen-addicted complainers.
But here is the twist, and this brilliantly illustrates the duality of the CJP. Their 5-point manifesto heavily contrasts those absurd joining rules with some highly serious systemic grievances. They're demanding things like no post-retirement upper house seats for chief justices to ensure judicial independence. They want strict anti-terror laws applied against officials who wrongfully delete valid votes, a true 50% women's reservation, not just 33%, serious financial probes into partisan media anchors, and a massive 20-year public office ban for politicians who switch parties right after winning an election. Guys, these are not meme demands. These are deeply political, serious structural reforms.
And beyond those long-term reforms, they're also actively going after urgent right-now student issues. Their immediate demand is the actual sacking of the education minister. And this is being driven by thousands of students who are reaching out to the founders over controversies like the NEET medical exams, the CBSE paper leaks, and the massive outrage of students being forced to pay really high fees just to have their wrongly graded exam papers rechecked. They aren't just trolling, they are demanding real, immediate accountability.
Moving on to Section 3,
The faces behind CJP. Who is actually pulling the strings here?
Well, let's look at the leadership. There are basically three key figures followed by the official CJP page. You have Abhijit Dipke, a Boston University grad who initially launched that viral Google form. Then there's Meghnad S., a former LAMP fellow and public policy expert who actually ran as an independent candidate in Delhi. And finally, Arpit Sharma, a UK-based chartered accountant and viral content creator. What's really notable here is that these aren't just random kids on the internet. They are highly educated, they're deeply connected to public policy, and they clearly understand the pure mechanics of making something go viral.
However, as you might guess, their backgrounds have sparked a pretty major debate. The big allegation from critics is that the CJP is secretly being backed by the Aam Aadmi Party, because both Abhijit and Meghnad have previously worked in advisory and social media roles for the AAP government. But on the flip side, we have their defense. Founder Abhijit openly acknowledges his past work, sure, but he strongly insists that the CJP currently has absolutely zero political backing. He states that this is just a spontaneous, 100% organic movement fueled purely by the raw frustration of young people.
So that brings us to the final section, part 4, meme or movement. How does this jump from digital to reality?
Because the movement is undeniably bleeding into the real world. I mean, in just 72 hours, they registered over 100,000 members through their online forums. They've picked up celebrity endorsements from actors like Dia Mirza and influencers like Urfi Javed. Prominent opposition leaders are out there praising their messaging. But, and this is a big but, they've also faced some very serious pushback. Most notably, their official account on X, formerly Twitter, was recently withheld and completely blocked in India.
And we really have to contrast their massive digital footprint with strict legal reality. As legal experts are super quick to point out, transforming millions of Instagram likes into an official, recognized political party with the Election Commission, that is highly unglamorous work. It requires 100 verified members physically presenting voter IDs and PAN cards. You have to submit demand drafts for fees and publish formal newspaper advertisements to invite public objections. Basically, posting a viral video is easy. Building an actual institution is incredibly hard.
So this leaves political analysts pretty heavily divided. Some just view this as harmless internet satire, like a digital release valve that's just going to fizzle out once the trend inevitably dies down. But others? They see a potential threat, or at the very least, a massive warning sign. They are drawing direct comparisons to recent massive youth-led protests that literally shook governments in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, pointing out that a frustrated, highly organized youth demographic is a very powerful and unpredictable force.
And honestly, the emotional weight of this is getting incredibly real for the founders. Abhijit Dipke talked about the immense pressure he's under right now, saying that young people are literally messaging him and saying, "Bro, don't you dare back off now. You've given us a hope." I think it reveals that underneath all the memes and the jokes about being lazy cockroaches, there's a whole generation out there genuinely desperate for a beacon, just searching for someone to amplify their voice.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. Can memes and internet satire actually translate into winning elections and changing real-world policy? Or is this whole thing just a fleeting, temporary wave of digital anger? It's a truly fascinating look at the future of Gen Z's political awakening. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you all next time.